everybody! Thank you for joining us today. Hello to all the wonderful boys and girls all over the world. Good morning, good day, good evening to you. Today we will be reading Nick and the Nasty Knight by KRAUSE. Let's get started. Sir Nestor the Nasty was the meanest, rottenest, greediest knight you can imagine. So wicked was he that people would run and hide whenever he and his men rode through their village. So scary was he that babies cried just at the sight of his picture. "Bring me your money!" Sir Nestor the Nasty bellowed, and woe betide anyone who came empty-handed. Those who did not pay were taken captive and forced to work from morn till night in the dark, dank bowels of the knight's castle. This is why Nick came to be working for the knight. His mother owed Sir Nestor a lot of money, though Nick's family was very poor and the knight was so rich that even his toilet was made of pure gold. Why, the Nasty Knight barely used his own legs to walk anywhere. Instead, he had servants who carried him around. Nick could only dream of such a comfortable life. Instead, he had to get up before sunrise, chop wood, fetch 50 buckets of water, do the dishes, and feed the pets. And once he finished, he started over again, the beginning, until he fell into bed, completely exhausted by nightfall. Every day was like this, without a single break. Something really had to change. One night, Nick decided that it was time to escape from the castle. When everyone was asleep, he snuck away, armed with a rope and a bow and arrow. He had not gone far when suddenly he heard footsteps. "The guards! I must hide, and fast!" Nick said to himself. Quickly he slipped through the nearest door into what he thought was a closet. Just in time. Nick took a look around his hiding place. He had to pinch himself. This was no closet. Instead, he had landed in the Nasty Knight's treasure chamber. Piled high before him were jewels and gems, silver and gold, treasures from all over the world. They shone so brightly that Nick had to close his eyes. Suddenly, he realized that the bright light did not actually come from the treasure. No, it came from a single gold coin that lay in the middle of the room. Just as Nick picked it up, he heard the voices right outside the door. The guards! As fast as he could, he hurried to the window, tied his rope to an arrow, and shot it over to a tree on the opposite side of the moat. After he had fastened his end to the rope to the window frame, he made his way, hand over hand, across to the other side. All the while, the very, very hungry crocodiles snapped greedily at his heels, but Nick was much too quick for them. At last he reached the other side and ran toward the pitch-black forest. His knees were knocking, so frightened was he, but he wanted to get away as far as possible from the nasty night. Soon he was deep inside the woods. When he was too tired to take another step, he lay down beneath a bush and immediately fell asleep. In the middle of the night, someone grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him up in the air. It wasn't Nestor the Nasty and his guards, but it was just as bad. 5 rough-looking robbers bent over him and laughed a blood-curdling robber's laugh. "A good catch!" yelled one. "He can chop our wood, fetch our water, feed our animals, and wash our dishes." The robber chief grinned in delight and showed all his missing teeth. Then he noticed the coin. "And what's that shining in his hand?" he shouted. The robber who held Nick shook him so hard that the coin fell to the ground. "Gold! Real gold!" the robber shrieked in delight. "Where did you get that?" the chief roared. "From Sir Nestor the Nasty," Nick answered quickly. "And there's a lot more gold where this came from." "Really?" The robber's eyes gleamed greedily. "Then show us the way to his treasure trove, boy." "Only if you promise me my freedom," said Nick, "and a small piece of gold." "Agreed!" the robbers growled. And so they all crept back to the castle and made their way almost unnoticed across the moat. The robbers couldn't believe their eyes when they entered the treasure chamber. Never in their lives had they seen so much gold, and that says something. "It's all ours! It's all ours! It's all ours!" they cheered. "And I am free," said Nick. "Oh, no, you're not!" shouted the chief with a mean twinkle in his eyes. "We tricked you! We still need you to chop our wood, fetch our water, do our dishes, and carry our treasure chests." They laughed their mean laugh and plunged their hands into the piles of gold. That was the last straw. Nick ran straight past the robbers to the window and was just about to jump out when the robber chief grabbed him by the collar and shouted, Oh no, you don't! What happened next was even worse. The chief's words echoed loudly through the castle, and in no time at all, Sir Nestor and his knights were wide awake. With their swords in hand, they stormed into the treasure chamber. "Robbers!" they cried, and a wild battle began. To draw his sword, the robber chief had to let go of Nick. If only he hadn't. Quick as a flash, Nick swiped the glowing coin from the chief's hand and leaped out of the window. "He's got the coin!" yelled the chief. "Catch him!" "The coin? Surely not my magic coin!" bellowed the Nestor the Nasty. "Seize him, knights!" And because none of his men moved fast enough for Sir Nestor, he squeezed through the window right after the robbers. There they all dangled from the rope. Sir Nestor the Nasty, the 5 robbers, and Nick. And then the rope began to groan and creak beneath their weight. Then it groaned and creaked even more. Nick knew what would happen next. With one last huge leap, he jumped to safety. Only then did he realize that he had accidentally dropped the coin. Suddenly, there was a great rush and a splash, 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 splash. And the nasty knight and the robbers tumbled head first into the water, where the hungry crocodiles were already waiting for them. Now things went very fast. What happened next was quite a big surprise. The moment the coin hit the water, splash, there was one great hissing sound. And in a flash, Sir Nestor and the 5 robbers were all turned into crocodiles. When the people up in the castle saw what happened, they began to cheer. Without the nasty knight, they were once again free. Even the crocodiles in the moat smiled happily. You see, they were all lonely lady crocodiles and immediately fell in love with the 6 new gentlemen. From that day on, Nick made sure that at last his poor mother and his family had enough to eat every day. And not just them, he also made sure that the crocodiles never went hungry again. The magical crocodile coin, though, had vanished deep, deep down at the bottom of the murky moat. And if you or anyone else you know hasn't found it, it's probably still there. The end. What a great adventure story. the 5 robbers, Nick the poor boy working so hard for Nestor the nasty, the crocodiles in the moat, the treasure. Remember, children, go back into your books and take a look at all the wonderful drawings. And remember to join us again next time. Thank you for watching. Have a good morning, a good day, and good evening. Thank you. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.